Hello friends, my name is Bunniness and it's been a hot minute. There hasn't been a video on this channel in a little while, so I apologize. September was an incredibly hectic month. It has actually been an okay reading month for me, so I've read new things and there are a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I don't want to skip over some of the other things that I promised I would do videos about. One of those things is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. In the month of August, I read and enjoyed Uprooted, and when I mentioned that in my Rapley video, there were a couple of responses that were kind of like, "You girl? You enjoyed that?" Perhaps it's because I've been very critical of other books that people would describe as fun, fast-paced, and easy to read. This was fun, fast-paced, and easy to read. I do love a good burger and fries kind of book, and they don't all have to be 3-course meals. My issue is usually with the idea that just because a book is fun, that it's also allowed to be bad. Like, hey, I know that this writing is bad and this world makes no sense, but it was fun, 5 stars. No. And we circle back around to the fact that this is, of course, all opinions, and bad writing and crappy world building is different to everyone. I feel like I'm rambling a lot to get to the point. I haven't done this in a while. The point. Uprooted was a fun, fast-paced, and easy-to-read book that also had a very interesting world and mostly all wonderful characters and a really full and meaty story. There are some negative reviews circling around out there, as always happens, so I figured I'd frame this review a little bit differently. I'm gonna pretend like you've just asked Muddiness, will I like Uprooted?
Warning. The booktuber in this video cannot actually predict your enjoyment of this book. Watch the content of this video at your own risk.
Number 1, you will probably like Uprooted if you like fast-paced books. Uprooted is a fantasy standalone. It tells the story of this magically dark woods at the edge of a village. There is a wizard in the tower near this village, the dragon, and every 10 years he goes into the surrounding villages and picks one girl to come back and live with him, and nobody really knows what happens to these girls, just that 10 years later they come back and they never want to stay in the village. Our main character Agnieszka gets selected to go to the tower. From there we learn about problems plaguing the village both politically and magically. Agnieszka discovers her own abilities. She trains. She deals with being away from her friends and her family for the first time ever. She has to rescue loved ones and even change locations. Problems are introduced in one chapter only to be solved in the next chapter or two and then replaced by other problems. It's very bam bam bam, and if you are the kind of person that prefers ups and downs in your prose, moment to pause and reflect with a character, this probably isn't for you. I tend to more character-driven stories and things with those moments of reflections, but I was on a train ride from London to Edinburgh and I picked this up and it was fantastic and perfect for that kind of travel reading because I never wanted to stop. I can't say if I would have enjoyed it as much if I were reading it just at home regularly, but I can say that you are in the mood for, if you are the kind of reader that likes, or if you have something like I had, like travel reading that you would like to do, this would be a really great book because it is fast-paced. Number 2, you might possibly like this if you like or can deal with magic systems that just are. I've read a couple of reviews that have all compared this to Brandon Sanderson, and I have read The Final Empire, so I can pick up that comparison as well. If you like your magic with rigid rules and reasons why everything happens, this probably will not impress you. I personally find that to be a little bit distracting to things that I like more, like characters and plot. Personally, for instance, I found that Sanderson's characters and plots in The Final Empire suffered as they plotted along and he was just talking about pushing and pulling and tin and bronze and I don't know what else. The story was like pulling teeth through those beginning chapters, but man, did he have magic rules. This is the exact opposite. The story flies by, but the most that can be said for the magic is that it exists and it's kind of an internal well. It can be depleted, but our characters push against those limits time and time again. The magic is a feelings thing, and our main character is special in that her brand of magic is especially musical and lyrical. It felt like one of the underlying themes of the book was in fact the more musical magic versus the more rigid magic of the older wizards. If whimsy is gonna piss you off, this is not the book for you. I just felt that it went really well with the whimsy of the dark forest and the magic that the dark forest possessed. Again, it isn't rules magic, it's magic that's supposed to be evocative, and it's specifically put in here to be an opposite of the kind of more rules magic that maybe some people will prefer. So if that kind of thing is going to upset you, look away. If you can deal with it, come on in. On that note, number 3, you'll probably enjoy this if you have a soft spot for fairy tales. I've seen mentioned in a couple of places that this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I couldn't confirm that anywhere officially. The premise definitely has some aspects of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but from there it doesn't really follow along. I think the big difference is that in our story, the main character and the Beast, for all intents and purposes, are working together to solve some other problem, and the problem isn't can we fall in love. Breaking a curse through love is not the end game, it's not the underlying thing. And if we are going to call this a retelling, if that's the way it was marketed or whatever, I can assure you that it was way better than another retelling I read this year. Regardless of all that, this book really does have a fairy tale-esque air about it. There are nods to other things that you've read in fairy tales before, but done a little darker and with a little more explanation behind it. Why is the forest evil? Well, we find out. Number 4, you can probably enjoy this if you can ignore what a jerk the dragon is. I say this cautiously because I'm usually the person who can't ignore the jerk in the story. The dragon is a recluse and he's surly and he's got reasons for being the way that he is, but he doesn't treat Agnieszka very well throughout the book. It kind of shifts away from a place where he calls her useless because he thinks she's useless to where he calls her useless, and it's like if you call your boyfriend a jerk. My general feeling was that while I did warm up to the character, it was warming up to a general level of meh. Thankfully, I thought it was such a small element of the story overall. Really and truly, from the beginning, Agnieszka is breaking all of his rules, and pretty soon she just figures her own way out. I love that about the main character, and I think it put the dragon in his proper place in a story that really wasn't about him. Number 5, you'll probably like this if you like I Never Knew I Was Special stories. I know some people are tired of that trope, but it's not going anywhere, and it's a trope that I feel does especially well in fantasy. Agnieszka never knew she was special, but I think the author is careful to weave in hints of it in her past so it doesn't come out of left field for us. It was always there even if our main character didn't understand it. In addition to being a coming of age story, it's also a coming into ability story. As I mentioned before, this was kind of perfect for me at that moment, so I'll also say that you'll probably like this if you are in the mood for it. It definitely seems like a mood read to me personally. I don't know if everybody will get that impression from it, but it was for me, and it's just a read that doesn't require a heavy degree of analyzation or attention. So there you go, now you know exactly if you will maybe probably like this a little. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Oh my gosh, why am I covered in light? That's horrible. The lighting in this video went to crap, and I'm not re-recording it because I've tried to record this 87 times. 87.